The galaxy was wide, full of countless stars, countless races, countless empires. Every empire fought for land, power, and respect. Species attacked each other for resources, for glory, or for revenge. Yet there was one strange thing that many young aliens could never understand. Why was Earth, the home of humans, never attacked? Why did no empire dare to wage war against humanity? Why did no ruler, no general, no warrior challenge them openly? In the great council chamber of the Zyrak Dominion, a group of alien leaders gathered. Their tall forms glowed under the cold lights. Their voices echoed like drums. They spoke about war, trade, and power. But then one question rose like a shadow. A young historian named Raltek, with sharp eyes and restless curiosity, stood up. He had studied many wars, read many records, and traveled across many archives. And still, one mystery kept him awake in the dark nights. He looked at the council and asked slowly, "Why has no one ever attacked the humans?" The chamber fell silent. Old generals shifted uncomfortably. The elder counselors looked at one another as if Raltek had spoken forbidden words. One of them cleared his throat and replied, "Humans are different. Do not ask more." But that only fueled the historian's hunger. He had heard stories, whispers in old starports, warnings written in half-burned logs, but never the truth, never the full story. Raltek was not satisfied. He pressed again, his voice sharp. "Every race has been attacked. Every empire has tasted war. Yet humans stand untouched. Why?" An elder slammed his hand on the table. "Enough," he barked. "Some truths are better hidden." The young historian lowered his head, but inside his heart a fire was burning. If the council would not answer, he would find the truth himself, even if it meant breaking laws, even if it meant facing danger. That night, Raltek walked through the grand archives of Zyrak. The halls were tall and endless, lined with crystals holding centuries of history. He searched through files, scrolled through records, traced battles, and compared timelines. He saw that many documents about human wars were missing. Some were erased, some were locked with strange seals, some were cut in half. The deeper he searched, the more he realized the truth was being hidden on purpose. Who was hiding it, and why? He found one old log, dusty and cracked. The label read, "Battle of the Karthos Rift," but the rest was blurred out. When he tried to open it, a warning flashed in red letters, "Access forbidden, by order of the Galactic Council." His hands shook, his heart pounded. What could be so terrible that the entire council would seal it away? He whispered to himself, "What did the humans do here?" The historian began asking questions outside the council. He visited starports, spoke to retired soldiers, and searched for survivors. At first, no one answered. Many turned away, many stayed silent, many warned him to stop. One old warrior with scars across his face looked at him with cold eyes. The warrior leaned close and said, "If you want to live, do not ask about humans." Then he walked away without another word, leaving Raltek more determined than before. One night, as he sat alone in his quarters, he replayed all the pieces in his mind. The missing files, the sealed logs, the council's silence, the fear in the eyes of soldiers. It all pointed to one thing. The humans had done something in the past, something so terrifying that no one dared to speak about it. But what was it? Were they hiding a secret weapon? Were they hiding a history of destruction? Or was there something darker, something beyond simple war? He could not sleep. His mind played the same question over and over again. Why were humans never attacked? Why did the galaxy fear them? Why was the truth locked away? He looked out of the window at the endless stars, his reflection cold in the glass, and he whispered, "I will find the answer." But deep in the shadows of the council chamber, hidden voices spoke. They had heard his question, they had seen his hunger, and they knew that if he dug too deep, he might uncover the truth that was never meant to be revealed. The truth of what humans really were when pushed to war. The truth that made every empire hesitate before lifting a weapon against Earth. The story of humanity's silence and the terror behind it was about to be uncovered, and Raltek had no idea that once the first door opened, there would be no turning back. Raltek could not let go of the mystery. The council's silence only made his curiosity grow. The missing files, the forbidden log, and the old warrior's warning were like poison in his mind. He felt as if the galaxy itself was hiding something behind a curtain, and he was the only one foolish or brave enough to pull that curtain away. He returned to the archives the next night. The halls were quiet. Only the faint hum of machines and the soft glow of crystals filled the air. He carried a small device he had stolen from a technician, a key that could break minor security locks. He knew if he was caught he would be exiled, maybe even executed, but the hunger for the truth was stronger than the fear of death. One by one he unlocked old records, wars between the Valerie and the Korath, the uprising of the Talsuan, the collapse of the Yethan fleets. Each record was detailed, every casualty counted, every weapon listed, but when it came to Earth, when it came to humanity, the records turned to dust, entire pages missing, whole battles reduced to one word: classified. It was not an accident, it was deliberate. Someone had erased history with careful hands. At last Raltek found a file so old it nearly crumbled in his hands. It was a log from a scout ship, one that had witnessed something Daraj-Han. At the time of the Karthos rift, the file was damaged, but one line burned itself into his mind. They do not fight like others. They do not surrender. They do not stop. They become something else. The rest of the words were corrupted, as if the universe itself wanted to erase them. Raltek's heart pounded. He began to see a pattern. Whenever humans fought, records were locked, files destroyed, memories erased. Why erase only their battles, unless those battles held a secret that could shake the galaxy? His mind spun with questions. Did humans use weapons no one else understood? Did they command something darker than machines, or was their power hidden not in their ships but in themselves? He searched deeper, following broken paths in the archive network. The deeper he went, the more resistance he found. Systems locked him out. Alarms nearly blared, yet he pressed on. And then, at the edge of forbidden data, he found something chilling, a log marked not only as classified, but as erased by order of the Galactic Council. And still, the log remained, hidden in shadows, as if waiting for him. His hands trembled as he opened it. It was the voice of a soldier, old and cracked with fear. The soldier spoke of a fleet that had gone to punish Earth long ago, a fleet that never returned. The soldier had been part of a forward scout unit, and he had seen from a distance what happened. He described human ships as small, weak, fragile. But when the battle began, those ships moved like predators. Every shot was precise, every strike was brutal. The aliens had numbers, but the humans had something else, something that turned the tide in minutes. The soldier ended with words that made Raltek's blood run cold. They are not what they appear. If you wake them, you wake death itself. Raltek leaned back, his chest heavy. For the first time, he felt a shadow of fear crawl. Inside his mind, what kind of species could make hardened soldiers speak like that? Why were humans living like ordinary people while hiding such a history? He looked out the archive window again, and the stars suddenly felt colder. If the truth was this terrifying, maybe that was why no one spoke it. But now he had tasted it, and he could not stop. He had to know more. Outside the archives, whispers spread. The council had noticed unusual activity in the restricted systems. They spoke in secret meetings, warning each other that someone was pulling at old threads. The elders remembered what had happened last time. The truth came close to the surface, and they remembered the warning that followed. Let the galaxy forget, for forgetting keeps it safe. But Raltek was already too far. He did not want to forget. He wanted to uncover. He wanted to know why the galaxy feared humanity and why no empire dared to strike at Earth. He clutched the old log close to his chest and whispered to himself, I will find the survivor. I will hear the story with my own ears. The hunt for truth was no longer about records. It was about finding the ones who had seen humanity's wrath and hearing what the galaxy tried so hard to bury. Raltek traveled far across the galaxy. He followed broken data trails, half-whispered rumors, and star maps hidden in forgotten archives. Each clue pointed him toward one thing. There was still someone alive who had seen humans in war, a survivor who carried memories the council wanted buried forever. He reached a mining colony on the edge of dead space. The place was cold and broken, filled with shadows of old machines and tired workers. In a small hut made of scrap metal, he found an old alien, bent and frail. His eyes were pale, his skin scarred, his breath heavy, as if every inhale was a battle. This was Kaelor, the last living soldier from the fleet that had vanished near Earth. At first, Kaelor refused to speak. He turned away, muttering that the past should remain buried, but Raltek begged, offering, Food, water, even his own credits. Finally, the old soldier looked at him, his eyes sharp like broken glass. You want to know why no one dares attack humans, Kaylor whispered. Then listen, but do not ask me again, for once I speak, the memory will return, and I will not sleep tonight. Raltek leaned closer, heart pounding like thunder. Kaylor's voice cracked as he began. We were a fleet of 500 warships armed with the finest weapons of our empire. We believed Earth was weak, a small world with little defense. We were told it would be easy, a strike to show the galaxy our power. His hands trembled as he spoke, as if the memory was alive inside him. When we arrived, their ships looked like toys, small, thin, outdated. We laughed, we cheered, we thought it would be simple, but then the humans moved and everything changed. Kaylor closed his eyes. They fought differently, not like soldiers, but like predators. Their ships weaved through ours like shadows. Their weapons cut with terrifying precision. Every time we thought we had them cornered, they slipped away. Every time we thought we struck them down, they rose stronger. Raltek felt a chill crawl down his spine. He asked carefully, were they stronger in technology, in weapons? Kaylor shook his head, his voice low. No, their ships were weaker, their weapons older, but their minds, their spirit, their will, this was what broke us. They fought as if every breath was fire, as if death was nothing. They never stopped, never surrendered, never feared. They were not soldiers, they were storms. The old soldier's hands shook. His voice dropped to a whisper. I saw entire squadrons vanish in minutes. I saw commanders cry out in disbelief as human ships rammed into ours, willing to die if it meant taking us down. They turned war into madness and madness into victory. It was not strength of machine. It was strength of heart, and we could not match it. Raltek leaned forward, desperate. What happened to the fleet? Kaylor's pale eyes filled with terror. They were gone, all gone. I was the only one left, drifting in a broken pod. The humans did not finish me. They left me alive, as if to send a message. When I was rescued weeks later, I carried the warning back, and the council buried it. They buried everything, but the message still rings in my head. If you strike at humans, you strike at the abyss. The room grew silent. Raltek could hear only the sound of Kaylor's ragged breathing. The historian's heart raced. The truth was worse than he imagined. It was not technology, not secret weapons. It was the humans themselves, their spirit, their will to fight, a will so strong that empires broke against it like glass. Kaylor leaned back, his voice faint. You wanted the truth, now you have it. But remember this, curiosity can kill. The humans are quiet now, they live in peace, they smile and laugh. But if someone pushes them again, if someone wakes the fire, the galaxy will burn, and not even the council will stop it. Raltek sat frozen, his mind racing with the weight of the words. Every instinct told him to leave, to stop digging. But deep inside, another voice whispered louder. If this was true, if humanity was truly that dangerous, then why did they hide their strength? Why did they not rule the galaxy already? The survivor had given him an answer, but also a darker question, a question that pulled him deeper into the shadows of truth. As he left the hut, Kaylor called out one final time. Do not search further, boy. You will not like what you find. But Raltek's heart was already burning. He would not stop, not now, not when he was so close. The galaxy had buried a secret, and he was determined to uncover it all. Raltek could not sleep after meeting Kaylor. The old soldier's words kept repeating in his mind like a curse. They never stop. They never surrender. They become something else. The historian HBs had expected weapons, machines, hidden fleets. But instead, the truth seemed far more frightening. Humans themselves were the weapon. He could not accept the mystery ending here. He needed to see Earth with his own eyes. He needed to understand how such a simple species could inspire terror across the galaxy. So he forged new travel papers, disguised his identity, and boarded a freighter heading toward Sol. Every step he took felt heavier, as if the universe itself was warning him to turn back, but his hunger for answers pushed him forward. When the ship arrived near Earth, Raltek gazed at the blue planet through the viewport. It looked peaceful, almost fragile, a jewel floating in endless dark. There were no warships waiting in orbit, no planetary cannons, no signs of military strength, just satellites, trade vessels, and the quiet hum of ordinary life. He whispered to himself, "This cannot be the same world Kalor feared." Disguised as a trader, Raltek landed in a human city. The air was warm, filled with voices, laughter, and music. Children ran through streets, merchants sold food, artists painted on walls. Everywhere he looked, he saw peace, he saw kindness, he saw joy. These were not warriors, not predators, not demons. They were just people, fragile and small. And yet the galaxy trembled at their name. Confused, Raltek spent weeks among them. He studied their behavior, their culture, their history books. In their stories, he saw wars, yes, but also love, sacrifice, and unity. In their art, he saw sorrow turned into beauty. In their laughter, he saw strength hidden behind weakness. It was a puzzle he could not solve. How could such gentle beings destroy entire fleets? One evening, he sat in a quiet park watching humans gather. Families shared food, children sang, lovers walked under the stars. And then he noticed something. Behind every smile was reliance. Behind every laugh was memory. The humans carried pain like a shadow, but they never showed it on the surface. They wore peace like a mask. But under that mask was something unshakable. He recalled Kalor's words again. They fought as if death was nothing. And now he began to see why. Humans lived fragile lives. Their years were short, their bodies weak. But because of this, they cherished every breath, every bond, every moment. And when threatened, they fought not for power, not for empire. They fought for each other, for family, for home, and that made them unstoppable. Raltek realized humanity's true strategy was hidden in plain sight. They did not spread fear by showing strength. They spread peace by hiding it. They let the galaxy underestimate them, and when danger came, they revealed their fire, a fire that burned until nothing was left of their enemies. One night, he followed a group of human veterans gathered in a quiet hall. They spoke softly, their voices heavy with memory. They did not boast of victories. They did not cheer of conquests. Instead, they bowed their heads, remembering those who had fallen. Their strength was not in pride, but in grief carried with honor. And suddenly Raltek understood. Humans fought not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And when they did, they poured their entire soul into the battle. The historian's heart shook with the weight of this revelation. This was why the council feared them. This was why no empire dared attack, because humanity's strategy was not just war. It was silence. It was patience. It was peace on the surface and fire beneath, a paradox no other race could master. But even as Raltek pieced the puzzle together, a new fear took root. If humans ever chose to reveal their true power, if they ever decided to stop hiding, the galaxy would not survive. And perhaps that was the real reason the truth was buried. Not just to protect humans, but to protect everyone else from knowing what humans really were. That night, Raltek stood under the human sky. The stars above seemed brighter than anywhere else, and he whispered to himself, "They smile so the galaxy will never see the fire." But deep inside, he knew he had only scratched the surface. There was still more, something darker, something even the humans feared to reveal, and he would not rest until he uncovered it. Raltek thought he had uncovered humanity's greatest secret. He believed their strength was in spirit, in unity, in willpower. But the deeper he stayed on Earth, the more he felt another shadow waiting, something even darker, something that humans themselves refused to speak about. It began with whispers. He heard them in spaceports, in dark taverns, in broken transmissions. They called it the fleet that does not exist. Others named it the forbidden weapon. Some claimed it was a myth, a story to frighten children. But Raltek had studied enough lies to know when truth was buried inside. One evening, he followed a group of human veterans into an abandoned bunker. The place smelled of rust and dust. The walls were covered with old marks and flags. The men and women gathered around a table, their faces pale, their voices low. They spoke of a war long ago, a war where Earth had been cornered. The enemy was vast, larger than anything humanity had faced before. But the humans unleashed something so terrible that the enemy empire collapsed within days. Raltek held his breath, listening in silence. The veterans did not call it a victory, they called it a tragedy. They spoke of a single warship, a prototype, built in secrecy under the oceans of Earth. a ship that carried weapons not meant to exist. It was said that when this ship was launched, the stars themselves trembled. The enemy fleet, hundreds of warships, was wiped out, and yet the humans never celebrated. Instead, they buried the project, they erased the records, they swore never to use it again. Raltek felt his blood run cold. He whispered to himself, "So this is why they are feared." But a part of him asked, if they had such power, why hide it? Why not rule? The galaxy was restless. Whispers of the Forbidden Fleet had spread like fire. No one knew the full truth, but fragments were enough to stir fear, and with fear came arrogance. Another empire, bold and reckless, decided to test humanity's silence. It was the Vair Dominion, proud and cruel. They had crushed smaller worlds, enslaved weaker races, and expanded without resistance. To them, Earth was just another quiet planet. They saw no fleets, no armies, only fragile humans living in peace. And they asked the same question Raltek once asked. Why does no one attack them? What makes them untouchable? Their rulers believed it was nothing but myth. So they gathered their fleet, 1,000 warships, sharp and gleaming like knives, and they set a course for Earth. Raltek heard the news while still hiding among humans. His blood turned cold. He knew what Kalor had warned him. He knew what the veterans had whispered. He knew the Forbidden Fleet was real, and now it might wake. The humans, however, did not panic. In the cities, people continued with their lives. Children played, markets thrived, music filled the air. But behind the surface, something shifted. Signals spread through hidden channels, eyes turned toward the sky, and old systems, long dormant, flickered to life. Raltek rushed to a high ridge outside the city. From there, he saw the black horizon of space light up with the arrival of the Vair fleet. Massive ships, endless in number, casting shadows over the stars. The ground shook as their presence filled the atmosphere. The galaxy held its breath. The Vair commanders sent a warning broadcast. Submit or burn. Their voice echoed across human channels. But the humans gave no reply. Silence stretched, cold and heavy. And then, in the quiet, Raltek saw something move. From the oceans, towers of steel rose. From mountains, hidden hangars opened. From the dark edges of orbit, shadows uncoiled like serpents. They were not myths. They were not stories. The Forbidden Fleet was real, and it had awakened. The ships were unlike anything Raltek had ever seen, black as night, silent as ghosts. Their hulls seemed to drink in the light. Energy pulsed through them like the veins of a living beast. They did not roar, they did not threaten, they simply appeared. And that alone froze the Vair fleet in place. The first clash was not loud, it was swift, sharp, merciless. Human ships cut through the Vair armada with impossible precision. Every shot was clean. Every strike final. It was not a battle, it was an execution. The Vair screamed commands, tried to regroup, tried to fire, but nothing worked. The humans moved like they had been waiting for centuries, waiting for someone foolish enough to test their silence. Raltek stood frozen, his heart pounding like thunder. This was no ordinary war. This was the abyss Kalor had warned about. This was the storm hidden behind human smiles. He watched as entire squadrons vanished in seconds. As massive battleships cracked open like glass, the Vair, so proud, so confident, were now begging for mercy. But humans did not answer. They fought until the last Vair ship was gone, and then just as quickly the Forbidden Fleet faded back into shadow. The ocean swallowed them, the mountains closed, the orbit fell silent, as if nothing had happened. The world below continued as if untouched. Children still played, markets still thrived, songs still rose into the night. Only Raltek knew the truth of what he had seen. The galaxy had just witnessed the reason why no one dared attack humans. And now, one more empire had been erased. The Vair Dominion no longer existed. Their name was gone, their world silent, their fleets destroyed. And the humans returned to their masks of peace. Raltek whispered into the cold wind. This is why no one strikes them. This is why they are feared. But in his chest, he felt a heavy dread, because now he understood something deeper. The humans did not fight to conquer. They fought only when forced, and when they fought, they erased. If another empire dared to push them again, the galaxy itself could be reduced to ash. The galaxy was silent after the fall of the Vair Dominion. Whispers spread, but no one dared speak too loudly. Empires who once mocked Earth now lowered their flags in quiet respect. Merchants avoided even mentioning the word war near humans, and in the council chambers of countless races, fear sat like an unseen guest. Raltek carried the weight of what he had witnessed. He had seen the forbidden fleet rise and vanish. He had seen an empire erased in a single night, and yet the humans returned to their lives as if nothing had happened. No celebrations, no parades, no songs of victory. Only silence. This silence troubled him more than the battle itself. Why would a species so powerful hide themselves so carefully? Why would they pretend to be fragile when they could dominate the galaxy? He felt the answer was near, but it was an answer he feared to face. One evening he was approached by a human elder, an old man with silver hair and calm eyes. The man had watched Raltek since his arrival. He knew the historian's questions, his hunger, his fear, and now he decided to speak. "You have seen what others were never meant to see," the elder said. "You have seen what happens when humanity is cornered." Raltek bowed his head, his voice trembling. "Why do you hide it? Why do you let the galaxy believe you are weak? Why not rule? Why not lead? Why not show your true strength?" The elder sighed, his gaze heavy with sorrow. "Because strength without restraint is destruction. We have learned through our own wars, our own mistakes. Every time we unleashed our full power, we lost as much as we gained. We are not gods. We are not conquerors. We are humans, and humans only fight when there is no other choice." Raltek's chest tightened. "So you bury your past, you erase your victories, you hide your weapons, all to keep the galaxy safe from yourselves." The elder nodded slowly. "Peace is not given, it is chosen. We choose to live quietly, to smile, to trade, to sing. But if the galaxy forces us, if someone threatens our home, then we become the storm. That is why no one dares attack us, not because we rule, but because we refuse to be ruled." Raltek stood in silence. He finally understood. Humans did not terrify the galaxy because of their weapons or fleets. They terrified the galaxy because of their will, a will so strong that even when forced into war, they chose to hide the memory. They carried the burden of power in silence because they knew the truth. If they unleashed themselves without restraint, there would be no galaxy left to save. The historian felt tears burn in his eyes. For the first time, he did not see humans as fragile or dangerous. He saw them as guardians of balance, a species that could destroy everything but chose not to, a species that smiled not out of weakness, but out of mercy. He left Earth with a heavy heart. He carried the story, but he knew he could never tell it. If the galaxy learned the full truth, fear would turn to panic, and panic would lead to war. War would wake the storm again, and this time there would be nothing left but ashes. As his ship drifted away from the blue planet, Raltek whispered the final words of his journey. "This is why humans are never attacked, because they are the fire the galaxy must never awaken, because they are the storm hidden behind the smile." The stars glowed silently around him, and for the first time the historian felt the same fear that haunted the council, the same fear that had silenced records and buried memories, the fear not of what humans might do to win, but of what they might do if they ever stopped holding back. And so the truth remained hidden, locked in whispers, buried in shadows, known only to those who had seen it with their own eyes. The truth that humanity was not untouchable because they were weak, but because when pushed, they became unstoppable and the galaxy would never dare test them again.